What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gridiron here at House Call Sports. My name is Sam. That is Kyle. And today we will be going over Green Bay's finally having an offense, Mel Kiper's really weird comments, and then previewing some week 3 matchups. But first, before we get started, a quick word from Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets with a 100% buyer's guarantee, which means your transaction will be safe and secure. You will get full service customer care and be compensated for any canceled events. And it's got the only ticket rewards program around. All that means is the NFL season is back 3 weeks in, to be fair. And get your tickets to watch your favorite NFL team, whether they are injured or not. There is nothing like being at a big game. Go get your tickets now. Hit the link in the description and go sit vividly. Now, last night, I believe we saw one of the weird, it was so weird because part of history is a team owning another team. And the Patriots have owned the Jets for God knows how long. I feel like last night was an official changing of the guard, at least for this season. Because the Jets, from the beginning all the way to the end, dominated. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And their offense looked good. It looked good.
It looked really good.
It looked, I don't want to say Super Bowl good, but it looked what we envisioned the offense to be. That's exactly how it was. And considering how the Patriots, quite frankly, they've been surprising a lot of people the last 2 weeks. I chalk this up as an impressive win for the Jets, at least for now. Maybe down the line, they'll end up being a trash team anyway. But for now, we gotta definitely give the Jets their flowers, Kyle.
Oh, absolutely. But my big thing is, yes, New England is rebuilding. Like, there's no way around that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. New England is in a rebuild year. But they have still been playing very scrappy. They've definitely been punching above their weight and keeping games relatively close that a lot of people thought would be blowouts. For the Jets to absolutely dominate the Patriots from bell to bell, like outgain them by over 250 yards. It was time of possession was a difference of 20 minutes, which is over a full quarter of football.
Right.
Obviously, the rushing yards, like the Jets were running a train all over the Patriots. But the thing that really impressed me about the Jets offense is the way that they were using their offensive line and the way Aaron Rodgers was kind of moving around a lot more than we might have seen him the last few years move around. Because we know the Patriots have a good pass rush. Like, Keon White had a huge coming out party the first 2 weeks. And they accounted for that over in the New York Jets offensive line room. It was really cool to see. Just protect your star quarterback. Like, it was the big thing that I was harping on the Jets again and again and again. And they have done a really good job of adjusting. And it's going to be exciting to see how far this Jets team can go.
Yeah, and I think one of the more interesting things is the tandem between Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. They combined, the Jets did, for 133 rushing yards. He even had Aaron Rodgers getting into the rushing action. He had an 11-yard game. You won't see that at all down the line. He had 18 yards rushing in general. But, man, I think overall this offense looks complete. And I think what the most impressive thing about this offense is that right now Aaron Rodgers is really spreading the ball out. And Garrett Wilson obviously is going to get the majority of targets because he's Garrett Wilson. He got 9 targets, which led all Jets receivers. But you take a look at the people who were productive. That's Allen Lazard. He got 3 targets. Tyler Conklin had 6 targets. Mike Williams got 4. Breece Hall got 5. You don't see a very big proportion other than Garrett Wilson. And I think that's important for Aaron Rodgers, given that, we're not very sure how long Mike Williams is going to stay healthy. We're not Allen Lazard had a very very interesting year last year with Zach Wilson, and we all thought he was just not good anymore. But maybe Aaron Rodgers has brought him back to life, and it's amazing what a great offensive line can do. Gives Aaron Rodgers time, and Aaron Rodgers, even when that pocket is collapsing, Aaron Rodgers is giving himself some time.
He bought
too.
himself time. Yeah, that was wildly impressive. And to your point of the way that they're spreading the ball around, they just have a lot of really good talent.
Yeah.
And like Allen Lazard, yeah, we kind of gave up on him. But you have to remember, his quarterback was Zach Wilson. And Allen Lazard is not going to be the first read as long as Garrett Wilson is on the team. So you're asking a quarterback who we have never really seen make good progressions and read a defense to try and get their second wide receiver involved. It's not going to happen. So obviously, Allen Lazard just was completely off all of last year. But he gets back with a guy that knows him, knows his game very well, knows how to use him in that second wide receiver role, because obviously Aaron had Devontae Adams. It's exciting to see this group of pass catchers for New York.
Yeah, and nothing really needs to be said about the defense either, because the defense, we knew it was going to step up. What surprised me was how well they were able to stop the run. Only 78 rushing yards for New England without CJ Mosley, who is the captain and leader of that defense. It does help to have a Pro Bowl linebacker like Quincy Williams, of course. And the Williams brothers were wreaking havoc all game long, and that's something you should expect. I think overall we could chalk this up as an impressive win. There's nothing really much else to say. I think the Patriots are rebuilding, but the fact that they were able to really win comfortably against an opponent that has owned them and has played them tough for 2 real decades, I mean, this is a very big jump in progress for the New York Jets. Now, before we get into our Week 3 preview, we did not expect this discussion to ever pop up ever in our timelines. However, the higher ups are asking us to discuss this, and you guys see it. Mel Kiper on ESPN says he wants to ban too high safeties.
What a joke.
He wants to ban cover 2. Kyle, I don't know exactly what to think of this. I mean, I'm speechless because
there's not. I mean, it is really hard to wrap my head around this, because it is just such a willful misunderstanding of defense in general.
Right.
Like you can't just assume that if you drop 2 safeties, it's very commonly referred to now as a Fangio style defense. If you drop 2 high safeties, automatically it takes away big plays. Like, your defense won't give up big plays, and that's not the case. Like, we've seen Fangio style defenses just get completely obliterated. Look at Brandon Staley giving up 63 points to the Aiden O'Connell Raiders. Like, just because it's a good scheme when you have the horses to do it doesn't mean that it's just an automatic shutdown of NFL offense. And in the same breath, why are we trying to help offenses more than they're already getting? Like, right. I love defensive football. I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so I love defensive football. It's already so freaking hard to play defense in the NFL because of all of the protections that offenses have now. Yes, some of them are very important. We understand that, like, concussions are so real in this game, and we need to do everything that we can to alleviate that. But in the same breath, this is a physical game. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hit hard.
Right. Yeah, and
stop regulating defense out of the game. That's my point.
Yeah, I really don't have much more to add other than we are in the big play era of football. Like, there's no question about it. Big plays are happening left and right. The quarterback is more protected than ever. Players are more protected than ever, and we're happy for that, absolutely. But it was such a different game back then. It really was, and really, I don't understand why we're trying to make it harder on defenses just because cover two, which is not necessarily a scheme that's crazy. Like, it's not a crazy concept. This scheme's been around for a very, very long time. I don't know exactly when it originated. I haven't checked the books on that. However, I will say that it's been beat before. Okay, good quarterbacks have beaten cover two plenty of times. And I don't understand why Mel Kiper, who, if I could just dig a little bit on Mel Kiper for a second, has been a draft expert analyst for ESPN for God knows how long, right? And has gotten so many picks wrong. He's gotten some right, and to his credit, but he has a lot of
that's draft analysis. It's throwing darts blindly. Like, yeah, you're gonna hit every once in a while.
Yeah, of course. And my point is this: like, he was special back then because no one had all 22 back then. It was probably only access to him, and he probably felt like this insane guru. There is a reason why Mel Kiper isn't necessarily relevant in 2024. Everybody has all 22. Okay, everybody has it. And since everybody has it, well, now Mel Kiper's not so special. I'm not special for making a guess at a player and being wrong about him. What makes Mel Kiper different from me? I mean, look, he's very eloquent, and he's done this for a very long time. No disrespect to Mel Kiper, but for a man who, even at his own job as a draft analyst expert, has more hits, that has more misses than he does hits, why should I trust you for saying this, banning too high safeties? I don't.
It's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous statement, and we're gonna move on from there because there's really no discussing it. It's a ridiculous statement to make, and quite frankly, we're over it. I mean, Mel Kiper, kick rocks. I don't know.
Last thought on this, like, it also just ignores the fact that football as a game, and there's been like several people that have talked about this that have played in the NFL. Football as a game is cyclical. Right. Offense is down this season and a little bit last season as well. Offenses are starting to trend downwards in terms of high explosive plays, high scoring games, because that's the way that football works. Defenses are adjusting to the style of offense that is, that high flying, spread them out, get a bunch of big volume, like big chunk plays whenever those opportunities present themselves. And guess what? When defenses adjust and start doing more cover two to adjust to that, offenses are going to adjust again. It's just the way the game works.
Yeah, it's a chess match, and I don't understand why you're just going to remove something from a chess match just for no reason, really, for no reason. But we'll move on.
Let's get to week 3.
Yeah, week 3 preview. So on to more important things. Look, these two teams, it's no secret that we all coming into this season, these two teams had very different expectations. I'm talking Eagles Saints, obviously. Philadelphia coming in, acquired Saquon Barkley, right? Brought in Vic Fangio to be their defensive coordinator.
Speaking of
and yeah, it was an interesting point that you brought up Vic Fangio because Vic Fangio is a defensive coordinator for this Eagles team, and so far, not necessarily a good look. Now, granted, against the Packers, it was a very sloppy game, right? It was in Brazil. Nobody wanted to be there. They gave up 29 points, whatever. That last possession of the Falcons game kind of stuck out like a sore thumb because you saw, credit to the Falcons, obviously, you saw how easy it was for the Falcons to just go down the field just like that. It was kind of ridiculous.
When you give Kirk Cousins 5 seconds in the pocket on every play, they're gonna drive.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now the Saints, on the other hand, I don't know exactly what's going on, what's in the air in New Orleans at all, but they faced the Panthers and the Cowboys. Now the Panthers, they beat 47-10. Everybody's gonna take a hit on the Panthers, the poor franchise. Then they blew out the Cowboys, and now that's when everybody was kind of like, hold on. They put up 44 points against the Cowboys. Now, I was intrigued at first, but Saints fans, you now have my attention. The Saints play the Eagles. They're going to be at home for the second time this year. And Kyle, I'm interested to see who do you think is going to pull out away with this win and break the game down for us, brother?
It's a little interesting to me because I don't see the Saints slowing down here.
Yeah.
I really don't see the Saints slowing down here even a little bit, because the Saints have a really good offensive line. That's just the way that it is. And I have not seen the Eagles generate any level of pass rush. Like, yes, I understand that they lost pieces on that defensive line. The assumption was you go out and get Jalen Carter, you go out and get Jordan Davis, you get Nakobe Dean to beef up your front seven, and it's just not panning out. Nolan Smith as well. They're not getting they're not shedding blocks. They're not getting into the backfield. They're not collapsing the pocket. Like, I think Derek Carr is going to have all day to throw. And when you have receivers like Rashid Shaheed just barreling down the sideline at speeds that shouldn't be like possible in full pads, and Chris Olave, who for my money is one of the most underappreciated wide receivers in the league right now.
I agree.
Chris Olave is just nice. He runs clean, smooth routes. He has sure hands. I love watching Chris Olave play football. On top of that, Alvin Kamara is absolutely like running a train over the league. Like, he is reminding people, no, I have very similar stats to Christian McCaffrey, and I can play at that level. And he is a threat in the receiving game. And obviously, I don't need to tell you how good Alvin Kamara is running the football. He's been showing it, and he has been just helping my fantasy football team to the highest level, which I love. On the other side of it, I think the Eagles are going to be able to put up points. That being said, the Saints didn't let the Cowboys put up points, and they have CeeDee Lamb and, for what it's worth, Dak Prescott, who does play at a decent enough level, but decent enough got them nowhere against the Saints. So I feel like the Saints are going to win this, and I think they're going to win it pretty comfortably at home against the Eagles. I'm going to go like 35-21.
Wow, comfortably. That's interesting. Now, the Eagles are in a tough spot because they just came off a pretty grueling Monday Night Football loss, and they're on a short week. So we got to keep that in mind when talking about the Eagles. Let me talk about the Saints for a second, because I don't think anybody in the world of football was expecting this kind of offensive explosion that we're seeing right now from the New Orleans Saints. Clint Kubiak deserves all the credit. Because Clint Kubiak, when Dennis Allen, head coach Dennis Allen brought in Clint Kubiak, no one batted an eye. And as a matter of fact, everybody was expecting, well, after another mid-year, Dennis Allen was going to be fired. It was over. There's no way he keeps his job. 2 games in, and this offensive output combined with the defense that the Saints have, I mean, who's to say we might be talking that Dennis Allen winning the division in the NFC South all of a sudden?
That's the thing. Like, we had just assumed that Baker and the Bucs were going to run it back because it was such a weak division. No, it's not. Not anymore.
It's not anymore. Like even I forget. So it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's the Saints, it's the Falcons, and it's really the Panthers. Those 3 teams are now looked at as perennial, like they could be playoff teams. It could be a playoff race between those 3 teams. And coming into the year, we looked at this division as this lackluster mid-division. These teams look amazing. Well, the Falcons they're kind of sputtering.
They're finding their rhythm. They're finding their rhythm.
Yeah, it's going to take a second with a new quarterback, new head coach, new offensive scheme, new everything. It's gonna be a little different. However, back at the task at hand, we should give Derek Carr his flowers. Now, he hasn't wowed anybody with his stats, right? He's passed for 200 yards, 243 yards, but he's had some throws that I haven't seen him make these throws since he was with the Raiders. I'll be honest, I haven't seen him, and I feel like
he hasn't made some of these throws since Fresno.
Exactly, and considering the fact that he has been dogged by his own community, his own Saints fans, the fact that he has now won their respect because of how well he's been playing, it's such a feel-good story. Now, I do want to talk about the Eagles a little bit because the Eagles, I think that they are missing AJ Brown. They are, because AJ Brown is their, like, I love Devontae Smith. He is great. He's a great receiver. But AJ Brown is a top 5 receiver in the league. And without him, you see the struggles that happen. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, this past Monday night on football, I'll go ahead and put the stats up right now. But this past Monday night football, he left a lot to be desired. He only passed for 103 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He did his thing on the ground for sure, but it just felt like he was flat. And considering that a lot of people consider Jalen Hurts, some people consider him top 7, a lot of people consider him top 10. The fact that he's been this mediocre at throwing the football, and we're in what, year 5, year 4, year 5. I mean, it's kind of disturbing. Now, obviously, it's early on in the season. We saw last year the Eagles got off to a really, really hot start, and then they kind of faltered. I think it's good to have growing pains this time rather than just start off hot and completely crumble. However, against the Saints, who are really hot right now, they just went on the road and completely dismantled the Cowboys.
They're also second in the league in rushing yards allowed per game.
Yeah, it's and you have Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams and a great offensive line. So right now, I think I don't see the Saints slowing down. I don't see the Eagles really stepping up offensively. And you said it, the pass rush is just not there. I don't think their secondary is there yet either. I don't want to say comfortably, because I do think the Eagles are a good team at the end of the day, and I think they'll fight. And Saquon Barkley is no joke, and I think he is willing to. They still have a great offensive line and a great running back, and I think they could provide some kind of damage to this Saints team. So with that being said, I think I'm going to pick the Saints still in this one. I'm going to go 27-24, Kyle.
A little closer. I dig it. I honestly dig it. The big thing for me in this is, yes, Saquon is a game changer, but when you have such a seemingly automatic offense in the Saints on the other side, you can very easily get 1 or 2 or 3 scores behind, and you can't rush the ball anymore. You have to save clock.
And you're forcing Jalen Hurts to
force Jalen Hurts to win with his arm, which when he is forced to do that, it's not as good of a product, and that's just facts.
Yeah, and let's again give our flowers to Clint Kubiak and that Saints offense, because that's been one of the better stories in the entire NFL, and I'm grateful that the Saints, because the Saints have such a great fan base. I don't think anybody really expected them to pop off like this.
No.
And to me, it's a welcome surprise. We need more contenders in the NFC, and if the Saints are willing to step up, they are definitely.
Their first 15 possessions were scoring drives.
Yeah, I saw that stat, insane. And I'm like, what is this? This is not, because think about it. Since Drew Brees has left, it's been like sputtering offense after sputtering offense, and now all of a sudden, again, only 2 weeks in, so this could all change. But from what we saw against Dallas, this doesn't look like it's slowing down. And frankly, I'm here for it. But next up,
speaking of surprises,
I mean,
why are we excited about Minnesota? Why are we excited about the Sam Darnold Minnesota Vikings?
What is this year? This year's on crack right now.
It's
like, why? Like, first of all, it's already weird enough that the Saints came in and have this explosive offense. I saw this past week Sam freaking Darnold, who was labeled a bust, throw deep and hit Justin Jefferson in stride against the 49ers defense, a 49ers defense that has been elite for 5 years and counting. Sam Darnold, what the heck? Like, I don't really know what, like, this feels like the Twilight Zone. Like, this doesn't feel like a normal reality we're living in. And now maybe maybe Sam Darnold really did just have terrible situations with the New York Jets, with the Carolina Panthers. He spent a year under San Francisco, so that might have something to do with the fact that he played well against them. However, I mean, there's no question about it. The Minnesota Vikings have surprised everybody, Kyle.
Oh yeah. There's no real there's no real word for it other than damn it, because they're in the division, so I'm going to be pissed about it. And I was hoping that the Vikings would at least make the Bears look better by proxy. But that's not going to be the case, because Sam Darnold is just having his career revitalized by Kevin O'Connell. Basically, if you're a quarterback that has been completely written off, go play for Kevin O'Connell.
Right.
It will fix a lot of things.
Right.
And it's been really impressive to see. I really do, though, want to talk about what a surprise, the Vikings defense, because
yes, I was going to get
crap.
The
Vikings defense under Brian Flores is looking really, really good. And yes, people are going to point to the yards that they've given up. But here's the thing. They have given up, I think, the second fewest points per game in the league, third fewest points per game in the league so far, because Vic Fangio, oh my God, no. Brian Flores is totally fine with letting you have your drives, give you some short completions and hit the hell out of you, so you start tiring out. And then as soon as you get down to the red zone, that defense clamps down. It is really, really impressive to see. I love it. It's frankly giving Sam Darnold the opportunity to go out there and put together some really, really impressive drives and throws. 97-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson, and there was a lot of air yards on that 97-yard touchdown. That was just awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think more importantly, I think that this is the important stat as well. Like you mentioned it, they are giving a ton of yards. They're 18th. However, you mentioned their points per game, and you gotta also mention the fact that when opponents get in the red zone, they're top 5 in red zone possession. Now
you're not scoring. You're not scoring from the red zone.
Red zone touchdown percentage, absolutely. So that's another thing that we also have to. Then this is a staple of Brian Flores. Brian Flores has been doing this for a while now. He's been the head coach at Miami. He got a fresh start in Pittsburgh. Then he got a job in Minnesota to become defensive coordinator. It's looking like Brian Flores is finally back, and if he can look. I want to also, before I glaze Brian Flores a little bit more, I do want to mention who the Vikings picked up, because they actually had a sneaky good offseason defensively. Look, they picked up Jonathan Greenard, who's a pass rusher from the Texans, who had a great year. Andrew Van Ginkel, who was also a great pass rusher for the Dolphins last year. Their secondary got a lot better. They got Byron Murphy. They got Stephon Gilmore, who he seems to still have it, and Shaq Griffin. And granted, their defensive tackles not exactly the best. However, they've made so many new changes to the defense, and I think Brian Flores really loved these changes. You add that with some familiarity. He's had Stephon Gilmore on his team. He's had Andrew Van Ginkel on his squad. This is looking like a playoff team, straight up.
Definitely.
And it's so impressive. Now, let's not get too carried away with the Vikings, because we do have another opponent in the Houston Texans, who also coming into the season has had some expectations. Now, 2 games in, and they've looked okay. They haven't looked exactly like Super Bowl-esque. They've had a close games against the Colts. They have had a surprisingly close game against the Bears, something that you called last week.
What a concept. A top 10 defense is gonna do well. Yeah,
I mean, no kidding. Now, they've been okay. They've been okay, but nothing really pops up. Their defense overall has kind of impressed more than anything so far. They're only 3rd. You mentioned how the yards are not that important for the Vikings, because they're not letting you score and they're not giving up points. Well, the Texans are a different story. The Texans are just not giving up yards at all. They're 3rd They're the third best defense in that category.
And they are
And
also
then,
wildly physical as well. Like D'Amico
yes,
Ryans is instilling a hard-hitting defensive culture. And I love it.
absolutely. Yeah, and that should be expected from D'Amico Ryan, who came from San Francisco. And last year, that defense was kind of in the middle of the pack. They weren't necessarily crazily impressive. However, you saw flashes of what the defense could be, and now you're really seeing the vision this year with D'Amico Ryans. Now, CJ Stroud has had a great start to the season. I do want to talk about one particular player, and it's Nico Collins. Now, Nico Collins, no question about it, I think everybody thought that Stephon Diggs, and those of you who don't know, Stephon Diggs, when he got traded to Houston, I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought to themselves, oh, well, he's going to be QB. He's going to be wide receiver 1, right? He's going to be the guy to get the ball more, right? That is wrong. Nico Collins has been the guy. And through 2 weeks, he's got 14 receptions. He's got 252 yards and a touchdown, including an 8-catch, 135-yard game against Chicago, against an elite defense, against Jalen Johnson. Well, I don't know if Jalen Johnson was matched up against
I believe
it was Tyreek Stevenson.
Weirdly enough, Jalen was following Diggs most of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the plan, right? I think that was the plan coming in. Tyreek Stevenson is a good corner. I think it's just really hard to game plan for 2 wide receiver ones. It is, especially when you and
then you throw in Tank Dell.
Yeah. And then on top of all of that, Kyle, I mean, like, you have an elite quarterback, CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud, to say the least, has had a phenomenal start to the season as well. Now we're going to really see a clash, because it's clear that the Vikings defense is going to be their strength. Because let's be honest, I don't know how much longer Sam Darnold is going to perform at the level he's going to perform. We don't know.
I think that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson they're gonna be stress testing Sam Darnold in that offense for sure. We're gonna find out a lot.
Because the Vikings offensive line, like, I feel like they haven't, like, they actually stood their ground against a pass rush with the Niners that's pretty damn good. But now I think that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, I don't think it's a different beast. I just do think that it's a very aggressive pass rush, and it's also a very different defensive scheme. D'Amico Ryans is one of the best defensive minds in football. So you consider all this, you get a head-to-head matchup. I'll go ahead and give my prediction here. I love the Vikings. I love their story. I do think the Texans are going to pull it out. Going to be a very difficult game because, well, it's on the road for the Texans. I'm going to go. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. Again, I don't see it being high scoring. I predicted it last week when the Texans played the Bears. I think they're facing a very similar defense with the Vikings. I'm going to go low scoring again. I'm going to go 20-17 again. I think it's going to be very close.
I definitely agree. Look, like, I don't see either team having more than 3 touchdowns. Like, this is a defensive matchup, which I love.
Right.
It always is exciting. Look for Joe Mixon to have a nice game running in between the tackles. Like,
assuming he plays.
We talked about it. The defensive tackles for Minnesota is probably the weaker part of that defense. Look for Joe Mixon to have himself a nice game in terms of yards up the middle.
Yeah. Well, let's see, because 2 hours ago, I do want to mention this, Kyle, before we get going. 2 hours ago, Joe Mixon was listed as doubtful to play the Vikings. So I don't know necessarily if he's going to get run. However, you did mention the run game. I do think Cam Akers can slip into that role pretty seamlessly with their running scheme and how well their offensive line is playing. So your point still stands nonetheless concerning the running game. Now, next up, we have a tale of two teams who have started off kind of sputtering, kind of in a weird position. We're talking Ravens Cowboys. And after last week, you'd think that the Cowboys were just like the same old Cowboys. But the truth is, I don't think they were expecting this offensive output against the Saints. I just straight up don't think they were ready for this game plan. I think everybody has been kind of caught by surprise. And surprisingly enough, I don't blame them one bit for getting blown out by the Saints, because I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Also, it's week 2. Let's relax, right? Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Now, with that being said, regardless of all that, Cowboys still didn't look good last week. They didn't look good at all. And right now, we're looking at the ranks 2 weeks in. Their defense is number 30. That's third worst in football. 20th in points per game. They're 20th in yards per game. I mean, yards per play, they're 16th. They got a top 10 third down defense, but every time they get in the red zone, it's an automatic lock. They are last. Now, this is, again, a team that originally was supposed to be a defensive-minded team. They've had a good defense for a pretty long time in the regular season, at least. And with Mike Zimmer coming in, you'd say, oh, well, the defense is not going to lose a step. I think the defense is good. No, wrong. Absolutely wrong. The Saints come in completely wacky.
Ask a Vikings fan. Ask a Vikings fan about Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer way past his prime. Now, with that being said, you look on the other side, you look at the Baltimore Ravens, and
they're missing Mike McDonald in Baltimore.
They are not looking that much better, are they, Kyle?
No, not at all.
They are not
at all.
They're worse off. If they are 28th in points per game, they are 15th in yards, 22nd in yards per play. Got to remember that you guys got to understand. This is still a defensive-minded team. They're a hard-nosed running football. Their defense was supposed to be the staple, because you got to remember the only real true good addition to offense added was Derrick Henry. 2 weeks in, Derrick Henry hasn't really made that crazy of an impact. He has 2 touchdowns so far in the season, but the reality is he hasn't been the game changer. He really hasn't. And of course, we can't go talking about the Ravens without talking about Lamar Jackson, the 2-time MVP. Played well against the Chiefs, did not play so well against the Raiders. So, Kyle, I'll go to you. This is definitely a matchup of 2 teams trying to get out of a funk. I think it's the Ravens. They definitely need this one more than the Cowboys. But what are your thoughts on this game as we finish up?
My biggest thought on this game is, why in the hell is the Ravens defense falling apart so bad? Like you said, we expected this Ravens team to be a defensive-based football team. I got a surprise for you. They're number 1 in yards per game in terms of offense. Their defense is pretty mediocre just across the board. They are dead last in passing yards allowed per game. They're very much like middle of the pack for what is it points allowed per game. It's just like very much average. I think they're ranked 17th. Oh no, they're last. Yeah, 28th. They're bad. They're looking bad in points allowed per game,
which again feeds into the fact that this is not a normal year so far. And losing like they did against the Raiders, a team that is very much in the lingo, not really. They're kind of just trying to set a foundation. The Ravens are trying to win the Super Bowl, Kyle.
You're not going to win the Super Bowl by selling out against the run every defensive down and giving up that much of a passing attack. And the thing that I really want to point out with the offense is, yes, they have the best total yards per game in the league right now. They're very average in terms of points per game. They're pretty much dead smack in the middle of the league with
15th.
They're 15th. They're averaging 21.5 points. Yes, it's week 2, but still, this is, if you have the most yards per game and just smack dab in the middle in terms of points, that's an issue for me.
Yeah, and on top of that, I don't think anybody really expected this kind of game against the Raiders, right? Like, credit to Antonio Pierce. Obviously, he deserves all the credit in the world for playing the Ravens well. Mm-hmm. But the Ravens, we got to remind everybody, they're playing for a Super Bowl here. They're playing to win the division here. The fact that they're 0-2 right now against an opponent like the Raiders, the same thing can be said about the Bengals. The fact that they're 0-2 against with loss to opponents like the Patriots, it makes no sense right now that out in the NFC North, a Justin Fields-led Pittsburgh Steelers team is 2-0. That makes no sense. And quite frankly,
I look at those standings for AFC North, and I'm like, this is ass backwards right now. This is the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't expect it to last. Obviously, we're 2 weeks in, but given the fact that you could losing against the Chiefs happens. Okay, it does. I don't know. It happens. All right, you're losing to the defending champs. Whoop-de-doo. The refs. Whoop-de-doo. It happens. But that excuse completely goes off the window when you lose to bad teams. Then the excuses are just there is none. Because how are you losing to these teams? And the Patriots, I can give a slide for the Bengals, but the Raiders, led by Gardner Minshew,
hey,
I mean,
as a Minshew maniac, I will just disagree with you there. I love
Gardner Minshew too, but it's the Ravens. This is the Ravens we're talking about. It's the Raiders we're talking about. This makes no sense, Kyle. It doesn't.
It's so weird that in week 3, this is basically a must. You have to have it game for both of these teams. Both of these teams need to win this game.
Yeah,
and we're in week 3.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't mean to, and look, I'm gonna put a little bit of pressure off of the Cowboys because I do think the Cowboys. Look, you've played first 3 games, tough opponents, obviously, right? But the Ravens, I mean, they need this game more than anybody this week because again, I gotta remind everybody, the Ravens are Super Bowl contenders, right? And I'll go ahead and look, and I'll go ahead just for giggles as we wrap up this show. Just for the giggles, I just want to go ahead and check out the schedule that the Ravens are having because it's
not pretty.
It's not that pretty, quite frankly. Next couple of weeks, they got the Cowboys, then they got to go to the Bills, then they got to face the Bills, then they got to go against the Bengals at Cincinnati, then you go against you go against the Commanders, cool. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's not a guaranteed win.
And looking at the schedule, in face value, looking at how the division is shaping out, I'd say there's only 3 gimme games for the Ravens. They've I'd say right now the Giants for sure, gimme game. I'd say the Broncos and the Commanders, and from here on out, it's tough matchup after tough matchup. Losing against the Raiders is a no-no. You need to eat up those teams. Pause. It's just not an ideal situation for the Ravens whatsoever. So straight up, the Ravens gotta lock in. It's no secret, Kyle. No. They gotta lock in because this schedule is gonna get harder and harder and harder, and they can be. I don't think they are the favorites in this game. They are the favorites in this game, which is, I guess, shouldn't be a surprise since they just go to the AFC Championship game. But they're only favored by 1 point. So that just shows that Vegas really thinks this game is a toss-up. Which coming into this game, I thought maybe if they got 2 straight wins or maybe 1-1, the odds would be up a couple more points. Right now, you're seeing the Ravens at a low. And it's going to be a very interesting matchup, Kyle.
My big prediction for this is there's going to be a lot of turnovers because you have 2 talented seemingly playoff teams that have their back against the wall. They're going to be both offenses are going to be forcing things. So I think that there's going to be quite a lot of turnovers in this game.
Yeah, and I don't expect. I think Lamar Jackson really needs to play well this game. Obviously, the last 2 games, he hasn't been terrible. I thought he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in week 1. Week 2 was a completely different story, obviously, but it's got to happen. It's got to happen for Lamar Jackson. I mean, 247 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, not going to cut it. You got to scramble more. He only had 5 rushing attempts against the Raiders. Credit to Antonio Pierce again, but
Raiders defense is so fun. I love that defense.
It is a fun defense. It's just, again, I don't want to disrespect the Raiders, but right now the Ravens should be on a different level. They should.
The thing with the Raiders defense is it's all about that pass rush and collapsing the pocket. You have Max Crosby, you have Christian Wilkins. You're expecting Lamar Jackson to be able to make plays outside of the pocket. Like that was, I think, the big surprise with that Ravens Raiders game.
Yeah, that I mean, and to be fair, look, I want to like real quick reel us back in for a second. It's only week 2, right? We're 3 weeks of the season. All of this is going to be like completely shot over come week 10, maybe week 11. However, if I'm the Ravens and this game is not a win, starting off 0-3, start hitting the panic button. And John Harbaugh might be in the hot seat. He might already be in the hot seat too after a loss against the Raiders, a team that shouldn't be even in playoff contention.
Shout out to the Raiders just getting coaches fired.
Yeah, I mean, what is it with the Raiders and getting coaches fired, man? It's just like,
oh my gosh.
My goodness. What was last year with Brandon Staley?
Yes, sir.
And this year it might be John Harbaugh. And that I'm getting the brothers mixed up.
Look, Jim's having himself a time over.
He is. It's looking like the Chargers are looking pretty damn good. J.K. Dobbins. He really did hammer home we want to run the football.
Listen, everywhere Jim Harbaugh goes, they run the ball.
They win.
And they win. That's the thing.
They win. They runs the ball and he wins, bro. And it's looking like that offensive line is finally shaping up.
Shout out.
But Justin Herbert still can't stay healthy. Poor guy. With that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Gridiron. Please like and subscribe and comment. What do you guys think of the Ravens, the Cowboys, all the teams we discuss? Are the Jets Super Bowl contenders? Is Mel Kiper an idiot? That should be an easy question. We thank you guys so much. Please follow us on all our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We're on there. And thank you guys for joining us. That'll be it for us. Peace.